Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video. It is time for the updated settings video. I wanted to do this like close to the beginning of season 2, but I never got the chance to. And a lot has changed since then, for my settings at least. And yeah, I'm on mouse and keyboard just for this video to make it a little bit easier for me. So starting out, I made my FOV 116. It just makes it easier for you to see targets up close and obviously down range. But other than that, there is no real reason not to use 120. But I mean, just look at the difference from 120 to 116. It makes targets a little bit easier to see, and I like it that way. It's not that big of a difference. ADS field of view, you want to keep this on consistent. A lot of people ask me, how do I get my recoil to look like it doesn't exist? This is independent recoil. And as you can see, it is terrible, but the moment you switch to consistent, look at it now. It doesn't zoom in as much, therefore the recoil isn't that bad. You don't have to worry about the visual recoil as much, and also it doesn't zoom in. It's just a better option. I mean, that was kind of the only important one here. I mean, 80 sensitivity transition, you want to keep this on instant. You can go through all my other things. Auto sprint you want to keep on. I did change my threshold to 5 because I noticed sometimes my stick drift will cause me to run, and I don't like that, so I just turned my threshold up to 5. Sprint interrupt reload, I keep this on, although I know people don't like it when I keep this on for some reason. For me, it's just better. You know, I like to just cancel my reload by sprinting, but I know you can also cancel it by ADSing. It is your choice personally what you like and what you don't like, but I personally like to keep this one on. Then here at the bottom, adjust height limits. This one is important. You can change yours down all the way to the lowest. Normally the default is 100. So if you bring it down, it's easier for you to see your minimap. You don't have to look all the way to the top left. You only have to look like halfway to the top left. Here you can also turn on damage numbers, and at the very bottom you can turn on team composition overlay to showcase the names on the left and right side. You can also see if your team has their ults, and that's really useful for ranked. If you play on mouse and keyboard, I would say the only important option here is to turn off mouse acceleration. Now my controller settings has changed quite a bit since the last time, and I always say this every time, my controller settings always change. Like, I haven't stuck to a single sensitivity since the release of this game, and that's just because I'm a weirdo. Recently I've been kind of like gluing to these ones. Aim assist strength and follow is set to 0. Now I do run into that problem where my aim assist just glues to someone jumping past me if I'm busy fighting someone else. So if that happens, you could just turn it down to -2. Aim response curve, use reverse S curve. Reverse S curve feels closer to something like COD, and as you can see there by the text, it boosts your small and large camera movements while reducing the effect of moderate movement. So it is good for people that prioritize mobility, aka movement. It is just the better curve out of the other two. Your horizontal and your vertical sensitivity is completely up to you. Basically -61 on both. For my low zoom, I have it on 0.7. My high zoom is also 0.7. My dead zone on my left stick is 4, and on my right stick it is 3. And the reason for that is I've actually got a lot of stick drift on my left stick. But my left stick is extremely sensitive, and it has like this weird spot where it kind of like locks into place, and that causes stick drift. The right stick is important though. If you want some easier recoil control, I recommend putting it between like 3 to 5. Don't go higher than that, unless you have stick drift and you obviously want to go higher. The sweet spot is between 3 and 5. For me at least. Now, my last video, I did actually use an acceleration multiplier. I think it was like 1.7 or something. And since then, I've turned it down back to 1. If you play on like 30-30 with a 1.7 acceleration speed multiplier, you'll notice that it feels a bit inconsistent compared to just having this on 1 and then just turning up your sensitivity. And if you try it out for yourself, you know exactly what I mean. So if you like to play on a high sensitivity, just stick to a higher sensitivity with a 1x multiplier, because just setting this up to like 2x and playing on a lower sensitivity doesn't make much sense. Okay, video and graphics. This mostly applies to PC. I usually play stretch, which is 1440 by 1080. If you have a NVIDIA graphics card, I'll show you my settings now in case your thing doesn't stretch properly. If you have a potato PC, I recommend turning off reduced latency. Now, I have NVIDIA Reflex low latency disabled, and the reason for that is I actually have it enabled in my NVIDIA control panel. But I mean, I don't think there's any harm in just turning it on the on position. Don't go for on plus boost. Here's my brightness and contrast. My DX12 renderer is enabled. VSync disabled. Yeah, my other settings, the more important ones here is make sure that your resolution scale is set to 100% and you're sharpening all the way up to 10. Most of my settings are low except shadow quality, because I just hate how jagged shadows look. It bothers me so much. Language and accessibility, you want to scroll down to your colorblind mode. So the second option is the one that I use that gives me the yellow enemies instead of the normal red ones. Now, matchmaking settings, I'm just going to say this real quick. So the best way to find games in XDEFIANT right now is to make sure you have both of these sticks, and you need to be playing on a controller in order to get into the console lobbies as well. Ignore my desktop. I know it looks really weird what's going on here. And yes, my background is the default one. I wiped my PC like 2 weeks ago. I couldn't care less. settings. So yeah, in your NVIDIA control panel, so you're going to click on just image settings with preview. You're going to select this one that says use my preference, and all you're going to be doing is going to be dragging the slide all the way to the left to performance, and then you're going to be selecting the use the advanced 3D settings. So you'll notice here that most of my settings are either disabled, driver default, or application controlled. I would say if you have like a medium end PC, you should do the same. Just put everything to application controlled or disabled. So let the games rather apply the settings in the NVIDIA control panel, if that makes sense. But if you really on like a terrible PC or something, then you need to turn everything disabled. I'll leave like a full optimization guide in the description that you go check out if you want to. And at your change resolution, make sure that this box is ticked for use NVIDIA color settings. Change this to the highest that you have, the RGB color format, and here on your output dynamic range, make sure this is set to full. Also, you had adjust desktop color settings. Or people ask me, how do I get my game to look that vibrant? Although I do that in editing, you can just turn up your digital vibrance to something like 70 or 60 and it will really look a lot better. The colors will be a bit more popping. Then you want to go to adjust desktop size and position, and you want to make sure your scaling mode is set to aspect ratio. You want to perform your scaling on your display. Although I'm pretty sure you need to set it on GPU. Mine never gets to work when I set it on GPU, so I just put mine on display. So yeah guys, those are my XDEFIANT settings as well as my NVIDIA control panel settings. If you guys want to see a more in-depth guide about like all my tweaks and settings, then smash that subscribe button as well as the like button. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.